I spent 14 years at one of the largest ad firms in the world in New York, a company called McCann Erickson. One of our clients was Buick. Buick was going to introduce a new car, and they asked us to come up with the advertising campaign. And we worked on it for about 2 months. We had some great stuff. About 5 of us, flew out to Detroit, to Buick's headquarters, big conference room, open up our big portfolios, take out the TV storyboards, and go through all these great commercials. And the client sat there looking at us, and they actively detested it. They hated it. So we all went back to New York and started working on another series of TV commercials to introduce this new Buick. And about a month later, a group of us fly back out to Detroit, more campaigns, same conference room, take out the storyboards. With great enthusiasm, I presented some of the TV stuff, and they hated this stuff even more than the first stuff. So we get on the plane to come back to New York, and we're all very dejected. And before we left, they said, guys, it's now May, we're introducing this car. These commercials have to run in September. We do not have a lot of time. So by this time, the tension's running high at the ad agency. We come up with some more stuff. I actually came up with this idea. We go back out to Detroit, and very tentatively, our confidence was gone now, we presented for the 3rd time, and they loved it. And the idea was very, very simply to show a condor, which has the largest wingspan of any bird in the world, just soaring through the skies, and then and this would be shot out in the West in the monument country with great red cliffs, and on a long ribbon of highway is this Buick. Beautiful mood music, superimpose the condor over the Buick, and just sheer drama, hardly any voiceover. They said, this is great. On the plane back, we're celebrating, drinking gin and tonics, having a wonderful time. We did it. The next morning, we assembled in the conference room at McCann Erickson. There was this hot film director out in LA that we were going to use. Figured out how we were going to shoot it and all. And then suddenly somebody said, well, wait a minute. We now have to find a condor to film. Oh my God, we forgot about that. So we have a worldwide search to find a condor in captivity that we could film. After 2 weeks, we struck gold. We found the only condor in the world in captivity in a zoo in Lima, Peru. So we call up the zoo and say, we're going to make your condor famous. We'd love to come down and film the condor. And the zoo wasn't interested. They didn't want these New York ad guys coming down to Lima to film their bird. And then suddenly somebody said, well, wait a minute, this is General Motors. General Motors has lobbyists in Washington. The lobbyists know politicians. Why don't we get somebody in Washington to call the embassy in Lima, or the consulate in Lima, to get to somebody who's on the board of the zoo to get permission to go down to Lima to film the condor. And that's exactly what happened. So we sent a location person down there. She found a great spot outside of Lima on this cliff. And a month later, this great film production company from LA, the guys from Detroit, our client, and we from New York all show up in Lima, Peru. Very early in the morning, we're all on the cliff. And way off in the distance, it's a dusty dirt road. We see the sun's coming up, and we see this dust coming from a truck. And as the truck got closer, it looked like one of these Brinks armored car trucks. And that was the truck from the zoo. There must have been about 30 of us on the cliff. We had a helicopter with a new camera mount called a Steadicam, where somebody could hang out of the helicopter and film. We had a camera on either side of the cliff. The zoo truck pulls up, and there's two guys in the truck, and they are wearing uniforms that look like they're admirals in the American Navy, including scrambled eggs on their caps, and they were the zookeepers. They opened up the back of the Brinks armored car truck, and there, in a big cage, was the only condor in the world in captivity, and he was not looking very happy. He looked sick. Two zookeepers struggle to get the bird to the edge of the cliff. They take him out. They have him on a thing like this on the pole. They undid the chain. The director says, okay, camera in the helicopter ready, and the helicopter is like 100 yards off the cliff, chopping, guys hanging out of it with a camera. Says, camera on the left ready, camera on the right rolling, camera rolling, ready. The zookeepers had the bird like this, and the director says, release the condor! They go like that, and instead of soaring into the sky, the condor plummets 300 feet to its death. And it was as if this film company from LA, these New York guys, and the guys from Detroit all assembled on this cliff outside of Lima to murder the only condor in the world in captivity. Now, for months afterwards, whenever there was a real screw-up at McCann Erickson, it was followed by somebody saying, release the condor! And incidentally, this was written up in the New Yorker magazine and made advertising history way back when I was in New York when the dinosaurs were ruling here.